Would somebody from the Joseph Priestley District who is prepared to make the next motion come to the procedural mic, please? I recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
I'm Dennis Wellnitz, a representative of delegate from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Rockville. I am also president of the Joseph Priestley District. The Joseph Priestley District organized 27 congregations to petition to have this proposed amendment put on the agenda for this General Assembly. Do I need to say anything more?
Does he need to read the motion?
Shall I read it?
Yeah, go for reading it.
Okay. Section 6.16, Congregational Linkage. This will be a new section. The Board of Trustees shall establish and maintain means by which congregations may communicate directly with the board concerning governance of the association and receive from the board timely responses to such communications. The means established by the board shall be distributed to the congregations.
Do I have a second? Hearing a second, we now have a motion on the floor.
Thank you.
Just to note that there was an incorporated amendment to Amendment 2. You can find it either on the app or on one of these sheets of paper that you may have got picked up when you got in. Incorporated amendment changes, it strikes the word A in front of means to allow for the possibility of plural means. So that was the only amendment offered at the mini assembly. So now is the time when we want you to form a small group with folks around you and try to include some folks you might not already know. Take 3 minutes to discuss this amendment. What sort of linkage would you like to see from the UUA board, and how does this amendment move us toward that? 3 minutes.
Yeah.
some friends of New England, they just know that there's no linkage between you have to say there's no what is there in I'm asking a procedural question. Is there a cost now to congregations
I invite you to come back together as a community as we move into discussion. I recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
Hello, I am Dennis Wellnitz of the UU Congregation of Rockville in Rockville, Maryland, and also the president of the Joseph Priestley District Board of Directors. Policy governance requires that there be governance linkage between the constituents and the board of trustees of an organization. And that needs to be a formal linkage, formal governance linkage. What we are asking is that the board of trustees follow its own requirements of policy governance and establish preferably multiple means by which congregations can communicate directly with the Board of Trustees and get timely responses. This is important because getting together 15 congregations to petition the Board of Trustees cost us 2 years of effort and thousands of dollars and many thousands of hours of organizing time. That shouldn't be necessary. We should be seeing the UUA Board of Trustees as friendly as our districts were and as close and personable and lovable. So please be lovable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Recognize the delegate at the procedural mic.
Thank you. James Snell, First Unitarian Church of Dallas. A point of information, and I could be ignorant, but I was on the Board of Trustees for 3 years, and the question that my delegation has, is there an obstacle now for congregations communicating directly with the Board of Trustees?
So our sense is that if this bylaw passes, this would further clarify and make intentional the intention to have linkage and communication with the board. There certainly are available mechanisms now that allow both individuals and congregations to communicate with the Board of Trustees. This would deepen, codify, and maybe expand those existing mechanisms. Thank you. Recognize the speaker at the con mic.
I'm
sorry.
here from the Beacon UU congregation in Summit, New Jersey. I want to say that this is a very good idea and a very bad bylaw. This is how bylaws go wrong. It's a one-time directive. It's a good resolution to ask the board to do this, but to put this in the bylaws for something that is done once and done is simply misguided. This is not the sort of thing you put in bylaws. Bylaws are for continuing conditions, not for one-time actions.
You recognize the speaker, the delegate at the procedural mic.
Thank you. Carl Ponanen from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greater Lansing in Lansing, Michigan. Just on a point of procedure, a point of information, I apologize, point of information. Has the board taken a position in, for or against this proposed amendment?
Thank you for that question. We have not taken a position for or against this amendment. We're allowing the assembled delegates to decide that. Recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
I'm Jim Turner from Salt Lake City. I had the privilege of serving as a district president for the Mountain Desert District at one time. And unfortunately, I was unable to attend in Charlotte when we made the major revisions to the size of the board and the manner in which the board was elected. I had the privilege last night of having dinner with my former board member from the Mountain Desert District, Lou Finney, and I had a lot of problem with changing the election of the board to make it at large. Downsizing I thought was a good idea. But what we don't have is the formalized connection. It seems like so much of what we've done over these last few years has moved the congregations further and further from the National Association. And I feel like this, it's not a one-time thing. It's a mandate in the bylaws that we establish some procedure whereby there is a continuing communication from congregations to board members that affords a two-way flow of information. It's not to bother the board members with some menial little ongoing, well, sometimes it doesn't seem menial, but some of the operational issues that we encounter, but rather it affords the opportunity to exchange information, to get feedback from the congregations as the board considers this or that. And as a result, I'm very much in favor of this, and I applaud the fact that it was constructed in a manner that does not dictate the mechanism and leaves to the board the opportunity to do that. At the same time, the board can't ignore the imperative that it be done.
Thank you. We recognize the delegate at the, do we have a delegate at the procedural mic?
You do now. Hi, Diane Daniels, Unitarian Universalist Church of Norwich.
The procedural mic is not on.
I'm not usually accused of being too quiet. Diane Daniels, Unitarian Universalist Church of Norwich. Question regarding this item: has there been a cost estimate for changing the linkage and/or adding linkage to make this happen?
To the best of my knowledge, there has not been a cost estimate because if the bylaw passes, the means by which it would be implemented are yet to be determined, and it would be dependent upon the means.
Thank you.
Recognize the delegate at the con mic.
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara DeLeo from Rochester, New York, First Unitarian Church. I want to speak against this amendment, this bylaw change. I'm in agreement with the previous con speaker. This is not a bylaw issue. Linkage is part of the John Carver policy governance model. It is how the board, it should be in your board policies of how the board operates. It is not a bylaw issue. Bylaws are how the organization is run. The governance model for the board is how the board is run. So this would be a place to put a policy in place that the board will respond to concerns from various congregations or however that gets worked through, but it does not belong in the bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to our off-site delegates and invite the off-site delegate at the pro mic to speak.
I'm speaking for Michelle Collins. Here we go. I'm speaking for Michelle Collins. I'm speaking for Michelle Collins, UUs of Southern Delaware, Lewes, Delaware. Hello, I am Reverend Michelle Collins from the UUs of Southern Delaware and Lewes, Delaware. Pronounced Lewis, I'm sorry. Under policy governance as implemented in the UUA, staff is not involved in governance issues. Governance responsibility is shared between the congregations and the UUA board. This responsibility depends on intentional communication and connection between them. This bylaws change supports that shared responsibility and accountability for it and ensures that congregations know how to communicate with the UUA board on governance matters. Please vote for this change.
Thank you. We go to the off-site delegate at the con mic.
This is from Joseph Barker from the UU Church of the South Hills in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The language, quote, means established by the board, end quote, seems like a hierarchical approach. Congregations need to be involved in the means approach and process.
Thank you. We go to the delegate at the pro mic.
This is Paul Pinson from the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, also a member of the Joseph Priestley District Board. Our congregations take seriously their role in the governance of the association, since it is an association of congregations. And when they voted to become part of the Central East region and allow us to dissolve the board, they put a restriction on that. They said we could only dissolve our board when all the duties that the board performed had been successfully handed off to other entities. The one remaining issue is governance linkage, which the district boards used to provide to the congregations and have in the past exercised. They are also acting in response to concerns they heard from another region that after the dissolution of their boards, it became more difficult to communicate with the board. We also understand that the board realizes that it had become more difficult, and for that reason, we've been encouraged to go ahead with this bylaws change. The change was also written with the involvement of the UUA legal staff so that it represents the appropriate formation. So we would like to see this bylaws change implemented so that we can be assured of proper governance linkage and go ahead with our complete absorption into the Central East region. Please vote for this. This communication is essential. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a delegate at the procedural mic? No. Recognize the delegate at the con mic.
Hi, I'm the Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom. I serve as the Senior Minister of the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee, and I agree with my previous two con mic speakers that linkage is essential, communication is essential in policy governance, but this is not a bylaws issue. It should be designed by the board, and we should continue to communicate effectively with the board. And if you're feeling concerned about your ability to communicate with the board, perhaps you should do so, but not put it in the bylaws.
Thank you. Do we have a delegate at the procedural mic?
We do. I'm Eric Valpy, University Unitarian Church in Seattle. I move to call the question.
Thank you. Okay, that's not a debatable motion. It requires a 2/3 majority. Open voting for our off-site delegates on this motion as well, and invite us to get ready to vote. So if you're in favor of this motion, did you do the second? Call to question. Okay, if you're in favor of the motion to call to question, we invite you to raise your voting cards. Thank you. You can put your cards down. If you would like to vote against the motion to call to question, please raise your cards. Thank you. And do we have any tally of votes from the off-site delegates on this motion? The motion clearly passes. With that, we're going to move immediately to a vote on this proposal. The amendment, the amendment to the bylaws, it requires a 2/3 majority affirmative vote. We're going to invite you to raise your vote, and we'll open voting for our off-site delegates, please. If you're in favor of this amendment to our bylaws, I invite you to raise your voting cards, please. Thank you. Please lower your cards. If you're against this amendment to our bylaws, please raise your cards. Could we get the tally? Thank you. Please lower your cards. Could we get the tally on the off-site votes, please? Okay, it's too close to do a visual sighting on that. We're going to invite the tellers to assist us in the counting of this vote. So we're going to vote again. If you take a moment to please raise, we're going to invite you to raise your cards again if you're in favor of this amendment to our bylaws. And we're going to keep your cards raised as our tellers do the count. And we'll need a physical count of the off-site delegates, please. Please keep your cards raised high until they're counted.
Just so people understand, we have to move the other two bylaws to tomorrow because we have to do synergy tonight.
Not yet. Are the ushers still, I see the ushers may still be counting a few votes. Could I get confirmation, please, that the ushers have counted all votes? Are we still counting? Okay, it appears that the ushers have completed the pro vote count. I'm going to invite you now to please raise your cards if you're voting against this bylaw amendment, and the ushers will take that count. Please keep your cards up until our ushers have completed their vote count.
while our incredible tellers are counting your cards, I just want to make an announcement that we will do the 2 bylaws that we had planned on doing tonight right after the opening of tomorrow morning's session. And we do this so that we can have enough time, our youth can have enough time to reset and center in order to give us the incredible worship that we know they will be offering us as we celebrate our youth bridging. For those of you that got handouts about those 2 amendments, or those 2 pieces of business, please hold on to them for tomorrow so that we don't need to reprint any for then. Oh, sure, ask the hard questions. Getting there. So the opening session, the general session tomorrow begins at 9 a.m., assuming we start on time, 9:10-ish in standard UU time.
Thank you, Barb. It appears our ushers are almost done counting those opposed. I'll ask for our help of our ushers in taking a vote of abstentions. If you're abstaining on this vote, please raise your cards. I'd invite our ushers to please take the count on the abstentions. And as soon as our ushers have completed this vote count, if they could bring the results forward, then we'll announce them. Ushers, do we have a vote count? Vote. Okay, we're still waiting on the count results from our ushers, but we have a delegate at the procedural mic that I recognize.
Thank you. My name is Annie Scott. I'm the religious educator at Jefferson Unitarian Church in Golden, Colorado, and I'm the president of LREDA, Liberal Religious Educators Association. And I just simply want to point out that it's religious educators and youth who have come at the bottom of the line that now get bumped. I understand, of course, we want the youth synergy service to be held, to have its place of honor. But I just wanted to point out, again, that we are at the bottom of the line and get bumped. Some of our religious educators cannot stay an extra night, will be leaving before they get to vote. Thank you.
So I want to say I hear all of what you said, and legally, we had to do the order. We had to put the first ones first. because you have to do those two first. The ones that are motions coming from congregations, they have to go in the order, and the other one had to go first. So I just wanted people to know we weren't trying to put them at the bottom of the heap. We have 4 more tomorrow. And so that's why they're there.
The ushers are coming forward with the vote. We'll have the results for you in just a moment.
In the interest of moving us along as they're conferring, I'm just going to do the announcements now. How about that? All right, as you prepare to leave, please look around you and collect all your belongings, and also do the ushers a big favor and pick up any trash. Doesn't have to be your own trash, can be just any trash. Take that on with you. It's really going to help the ushers out. And please take a look at Lost and Found. They're getting a lovely collection of water bottles that they would love to return to owners. That's in 2204. We're almost there, folks.
Okay, we had to do a little bit of math there, but we have the results. Including our off-site delegates, we had a total in favor of that amendment, 617 votes, opposed 462, a total of 33 abstentions. That for vote amounts to a 57.2%. It does not meet that 2/3 required in order to pass. The proposed amendment fails. Thank you for your participation in that vote and your patience as we